Hey everybody, Bryce here from Two Nerdy Families, where we do the research so you don't have to. So today we're going to be going through and re-screening our back sliding door. You may have a window screen or door screen that you're looking to replace. Don't give up on it yet because it probably only takes about 10 minutes to get this done. And I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do it, and we'll do that right after this. All right, so to start out, you're just going to make sure you've got the right stuff. I've just got some of this screen spline, and that's what you're going to use to go around this edge after you get the screen in there. Then I've got this screen. It's basically a roller tool that goes through and helps you to roll that spline in there to hold the screen in place. And then we'll just take a razor blade and go through and score the outside of to get rid of the excess screen. I just took my screen door off and brought it in the garage, but there's these little rollers on the bottom here that you can see, and they're spring loaded, so I just had to get a flathead screwdriver and kind of help pop those out to get it out of the railing and in here to the garage. So I've got a roll of screen here, just picked up at the hardware store, and I'm essentially just you don't have to be super meticulous about this going on. I'm just going to kind of come up here to the top. I'm going to run some spline along the top to kind of start it out. I've laid this in the grass before. It's probably a little bit easier than doing it standing up, but it's raining outside, so I'm going to do it here in the garage. But I'll just go through and get this started and just kind of show you where we're at here in a minute. Alright, so I've got the top of this screened already, and that's just kind of holding it up, and now I'm going to go through and do down the sides. And like I mentioned a minute ago, it's probably easier if you have a flat surface, so if you have a couple of like sawhorses or good workbench, you could do it on that. I usually do it out in the grass versus like on the concrete floor, so you're not like scratching up your door if you have like a nice finish on your screen door. So if you look up here, you'll see that I've kind of gone through and I've just used this tool to get that spline down in that groove. And I mentioned you don't need to be too meticulous with making sure that it's like perfectly level or anything. And then you can see when you come to your corners here, you could cut it and just have another strand, but I just kind of run the spline just around the corner there. And then I'll just take my tool and I'm just gonna kind of roll that in there. So then I'll just take this and run it down this way, and then I'm just gonna roll that spline in there. I'm squeaking pretty loud, but you can kind of see that as you go through and run the spline in there, it puts some tension on that screen, and so when I do the other side, it'll make sure that screen's nice and tight. But then when I go through and score this, I'll show you, or I'll probably leave a little bit of excess because we have a dog and a bunch of little kids, and specifically boys, so they like to run through the screen all the time, so I'm always fixing this. But if I leave a little bit of slack, then if the kids are leaning on it or pushing on it a little bit, it may pull on it a little bit, and that'll give me some slack so I can kind of pull it tight and then go through with the tool and just get that spline back down in the groove, so I'm not coming back out here to the garage and re-screening it right away. So I'm going to go through and do the rest of these edges and kind of show you what it looks like at the end. Okay, so I almost got the whole thing screened so far. I'm just kind of on this last corner coming down, and I just want to show you, as I'm finishing the other side, since I've done that side already. I'm just kind of wrapping this around and just keeping some tension on it. So then when I go through and roll right through here, it's going to kind of keep this nice and tight, and it'll give you a nice tight finish at the end. So you don't have to really pull on it or keep a lot of tension on it. I'm just simply wrapping it around, and then kind of as I put that spline in, it's already kind of going around and down into the groove here and giving it that tension that you want. And I don't want it too tight because the second the kids push on it, it's going to pop that spline out. But you want to make sure and give some pretty good pressure as you're going through, just to get that spline down in there so it's nice and tight. And I'd recommend that if you're re-screening a door or a window, just to get some new spline, it's going to be nice and, you know, flexible and fill that void really well, versus if you have some existing spline in there, it could be, you know, just kind of old and dried out or start cracking on you. So just, you know, spend a few bucks and just get some new spline if you're putting a new screen in, and it'll last longer for you. All right, so I'm done now. I just came to the end, and now I have some of this excess spline that came out of one of those bundles. I'm just gonna take some snippers and just go through, and I didn't want to use my razor blade for this and chance slipping and slicing through, you know, some screen that I just put in, and so I'm just gonna do that, and you know, just kind of get that nice and tight right there in that corner. So then I'm just gonna take this and go through. I mentioned earlier that if I were to make this nice and clean, I'd probably come pretty close to the edge here. Let's see if I can get a good angle on that. Come pretty close to the edge where that spline is and cut it, but then when the kids push on and it starts to come out, I don't have anything to grab onto to kind of get that back in the groove, and then like go back through with the tool. And so I'm actually going to come quite a bit higher. So you can see that I'll just come up this way, kind of in the corner of this inner part of the screen door. And that way I've got just a little bit here. From here, you're not going to be able to see, you know, too much from there, but you can kind of see that I've got enough that I can grab onto and go through, make sure it's in that groove, and put that spline back in the groove if I need to. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But then most screen doors, you know, mine might be a little bit different than the one you're dealing with, but the screen is actually just going to be kind of in the middle of your handle here. So I just got a couple screws I'm just going to be putting back in here. And then this is the other side where it's got the locking mechanism to kind of lock your screen door in the door jamb. So I'm going to put that back on, get the rest of this kind of trimmed up, score all the edges, and go put it back on the door, and we'll be done. Okay, so it's pretty much done. Got the edges all scored, and I got the handle back on. Let's just go and put it back on the door. So this, I'm just gonna put the top in first there, and then on the bottom you can see that these are the rollers that are spring loaded. And so on those, you want to just make sure they're on that railing. Got that one on, and got this one on. Okay, and just make sure that on the handle that you've got the part that you lock facing on the inside, so you know that you don't have it turned around or upside down. Well, that's pretty much it. Leave us some comments and tell us what you liked. Tell us if you have any tips or tricks of how you rescreen your door or your windows. Hi, Nixon. Hi. But anyway, that's it from Tyranny Families, and we'll see you next time.